First of all, a very welcome to all of you. I hope you guys are keeping safe. I hope you guys are staying inside. So there have been a lot of queries going on. We actually got flooded with lots of questions from our own students wanting to know the impact of Trump's executive order and how that would impact their study abroad plans, etc. So we decided to call in an expert, somebody who has been dealing with students and visas and embassies, throughout his life, throughout most of his adult life, rather. So today we are very glad to have with us Mr. Sanjay Kaushik. So he has been in the embassy and visa industry for the last 27, 28 years now. He was also an employee of the U.S. Embassy at Delhi. He worked there for about 15 years. And now he helps us he helps our students with their student visas. He also has lots of experience in H-1B visa and all different types of visas to the US. So we'll get to Sanjay in a minute. So before that, I just would like to know how many of you are Jamboree students. So if you are a Jamboree student, can you type in yes in the chat window? And if you are not a Jamboree student, can you type in no? Okay. Right. Okay. So we have quite a good mix of students, right? So today the agenda of today's session is to discuss Trump's executive order and its impact, if at all, and its impact on students planning to go to the US for their higher education. A little bit of Jamboree. I noticed that some of you are not Jamboree students, so just a brief introduction of Jamboree. So we started in 1993. So we are the oldest and the largest study abroad organization in India. We have 39 centers in 22 cities and 4 countries. So we are pretty spread out. We have been producing the best results, be it admissions, counseling results, or training of all the scores of GMAT, GRE, SAT. So we have been producing the best results, since 1993. We are pretty known in the study abroad industry for our coaching as well as admissions counseling. So that's a little bit about Jamboree. If you want to know more about us, you feel free to go to our website. Right, so we'll jump right in. Before that, some ground rules. Everyone, please pay attention. Throughout the session, initially how we are planning to design it is that we'll take a question. So these are the questions that have been sent to us by our students. So we'll first of all, address these questions. Sanjay will be addressing those questions, and after every question, we'll take a pause and take questions from you. While we are speaking, please don't type in the chat window. If you type in the chat window while we are speaking, we will not be able to address your queries. Okay? Alright, so Sanjay, I would request you to give a brief introduction of yourself. And yes, thank you very much for sparing time for us.
Thanks Arjuma, and thanks Jamboree for organizing such an event at this point of time, because I understand that a lot of students are anxious to know what's happening, what is this executive order, and how will that impact. So a little background on myself. I worked with the American Embassy in the visa section, New Delhi. I was there for a good 15 years, handled the non-immigrant visas, the anti-fraud, and then became the visa specialist. And thereafter, I've been assisting students now for good 18 years, a total of about 33 years in total of my experience in the visas itself. And to add on to Jamboree's, wonderful experience that they give to students, our visa success rate has also been very, very good ever since. So, we can discuss about visas, we can discuss about the impact of the H1, what is the executive order, and what does the temporary suspension means. So you're most welcome to type in your questions, and I would be more than happy to address those questions. So Arjuma, take over, and if you have any questions already, I would like to go with those.
Thanks, Sanjay. So yes, the first question is, so what are the salient points of this executive order? What are the salient points?
Uh, Arjuna, if we read the executive order and if we understand it correctly, technically it talks about all about the immigrant visas and the suspension of the immigrant visas at this point of time. So should I go ahead and explain the immigrant visas? So the immigrant visas are the people, those who are green card holders, and they have filed immigration for their families in India. And they have a waiting period. So once the waiting period gets current, so they are called in for the interview, and then the interview happens and they are given the immigration visas, which is called the green card. The other thing is, like, if a person is in the US and if he has been there on a legal visa status, and from there he wants to switch to a green card. So all those things have been suspended at this point of time, currently for 60 days only. And thereafter they're going to review the situation, and they may just go ahead and bring that suspension out, because it is not going to be something which will stay permanently. The H1 visas, currently have about 8 or 9 students, those who are in India, and their H1Bs are being processed. So currently it is only impacting the immigrant visas and nothing else beyond that.
So basically, the only set of people who have something to worry about are the ones who are looking to or who want a green card in the next 60 days, right? Am I right? Yes, Sanjay, can you hear me? Hello, can everyone hear me?
So while Sanjay is logging in, so let me quickly rephrase what he has spoken till now. Some of you have joined just now, so for your benefit. So what Sanjay is saying is that the executive order, it's only for the next 60 days to begin with, right? So after that they will review the situation and take things forward. That's the most important thing. Second, the most important thing is that the executive order is only and only for green card applicants. So there is no ban, or there is no delay for people applying for the student visa, F1 student visa, or the H1B visa. It is applicable, the 60-day ban or 60-day hold, 60-day delay is applicable only for people applying for green cards, right? So so once Sanjay comes back online, he will elaborate. So please hold on to your questions. We will be taking questions. Please hold on to your questions.
Arjuma?
So Sabin, the session is, we will wrap up comfortably within an hour, and we are recording this session, so we will be emailing the recording to you as well. If you missed out on anything, don't worry about it. Right, so Sanjay, I see you are back.
Hi, Arjuna. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I guess there was some problem, but I guess I'm back now.
Right, can you hear me, Sanjay?
Yes, I can hear you, Arjuna.
All right, cool.
So the next question that we are getting is that what will be its impact on students planning to study in the US, the ones who are planning to go either in the session starting August September, that is fall of 2020, or to something in 2021. What will there be any impact? What is your take on that?
Arjuna and all students, once again, there would not be any impact on students going to study in the US. Once it's going to be, I mean, look, when we talk about the policies or when we talk about the processes, it is just not limited to one university or the US itself, and thankfully that, even in the US, there is democracy. And the executive orders are only for a specific period of time. It is not like a permanent thing. So students, those who will be going and studying even this session, which is going to be fall or the spring, it is not going to impact them at all. The students, those who are currently in the US, they may face a little bit of problem because at this point of time, this is the time when they start looking for their OPTs, right? And unfortunately, because of COVID-19, everything is shut. So they may face a little problem, but the USCIS has already planned their, what do you say? They've started looking at the transition from the student visa to an OPT, and they're giving them grace for that. Grace, they will be having some grace period in addition to all that. Arjuma, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Now this is another question that we have been getting, especially from students who are planning to go, this fall. That will there be any impact, on the acceptance rates of student visas? So currently, the US embassies are closed. They are not processing any student visas. So will that have an impact on the acceptance rates of student visas?
Okay, so here two things: the embassy, when the embassy would open up, and what about the appointments and all that, and the acceptance rate of the student visa. So let me just start with the acceptance rate. The acceptance rate always depends on the student's merit, the kind of university he's going to, the kind of intentions he has to, go and study in the US, or will he be going to the US for some other purposes, and then what are his long-term plans. Those are the key things that the student must always remember. The acceptance rate, if the students are, going to a good college, they have a good GRE score, they got good funding to show, and plus they have intentions to study and then return back to the home country, the acceptance rate is going to be wonderful. In any case, because of the slowdown of business, worldwide, I see the acceptance rate, it is my view, would really jump much higher than usual.
Right. Actually, that is the feeling that I am also getting from the universities, is that even university admission acceptance rates are expected to go up because their business is also taking a hit. So they would, want to recover some of that lost revenue. So that's a feeling we are also getting, is that the acceptance rate of universities would go up, and maybe the visas also, right?
Definitely. I totally agree on this, and we'll see this, that, the acceptance rate would definitely go up. The second thing is, the students should not worry about the appointment booking. Currently, we are not aware when the embassy would open up, but I'm hoping that, by end of May or beginning of June, they would open up. But whenever the students are applying for the visas, they would be given preferences over any other application, like a tourist visa or a business visa. They would have special slots for them. They've always given priority to the students' appointments because they understand that students have to join the colleges on a specific day and date, like, they have a deadline. So they would be giving all kind of, priorities to the students for the appointment. So they needless to worry on that.
Okay, all right. There is a question from Shalaka Joshi.
Mm-hmm.
For fall 2020, when will the visa appointment booking start?
Okay. Arjuna, like I just said, that we currently do not know when the embassy is going to open up, but my feeling is that by end of May or June, they will open up. In any case, the students would be given priority for the appointments because the embassy understands that the university has a deadline to start with. So they would give expedited appointments, priority appointments, and early appointments to students in any case. So they should not worry.
So what you were saying is that they should keep an eye out for mid of May or end of May. That's when the embassy probably might at least issue a notice about when they are expected to open, right?
Correct, exactly.
Right. Okay, so some students, someone wants to know whether the executive order would have any impact on the scholarships given by the universities to students. So Sakshi, definitely no. I mean, the universities give scholarships based on your academic credentials, your research projects, etc., etc. That is in no way related to this executive order, which is going to be in place only for the next 60 days, right? And scholarships and admissions, all of those, that is a long-term process. So Sanjay, would you like have anything else to add to this, the whole scholarship question?
What you said is absolutely correct, that the scholarships are based on the merit, and it has nothing to do with the executive order. If a student has applied for, and if he qualifies for a scholarship, he would definitely get one. This executive order has nothing to do with that.
Right, that is the university's decision, not the state departments. Scholarships are university decisions, admissions are university decisions. Visas and all of those are state decisions. State means the US government's decisions. They're not interrelated.
Correct, they're not.
So Shweta wants to know, will university defer our admit to fall 2021? So if you if you want a deferral, you specifically, if you want a deferral, you should write to the university and ask for it, right? Universities are not going to automatically defer your admission to the next fall session, right? If you want a deferral, you can ask for it. Some universities are allowing students, for genuine reasons, they are. So yes, you can, if you personally want a deferral, you can email and ask them. Right.
Correct.
Okay. So let's go to the next question. So how this is a very, very actually common question that we are facing. How is this executive order? Is it going to affect job opportunities in the US and the H-1B visas for Indian students who are currently in the US on F1 student visas? What do you think? Or future maybe?
All right. So if anybody has read the executive order, and if you see the other, like the Forbes or the Times and the other newspapers of the US which are writing, they're saying very clearly that the executive order will not have any impact on either the H1 or the L1s or the EB5 visa categories, because they bring in the revenue, because they need people who's going to run the offices for them. The H1s, the EB5s, so EB5 is the investor's visa and the L1 is the intra-company transfer. So that all within US, there's a huge debate going on regarding the H1Bs, the L1, the investors visas, and people who come and contribute to the economy. So I do not see that, because the next H1B is going to be in the March, in the April of 2021, and that is a time when all the countries around would be wanting their economy to jump and bounce back. And any country or any organization would need specialists to work in their company. So I don't see that, it would adversely affect the H1s. I think it is going to be an opportunity for the students to go study at this point of time and, hit 21 or 22. That is going to be the best time for the students, because most of the companies would want specialists and specialized workforce for them to, bring the economy back.
Right.
The executive order will not, it is only for 60 days.
Right, right.
Yeah, it is not a long-term decision.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's actually similar to how, now the flights are not operating, people are not able to come to India also now, right? So it's something similar. So yes, that's a 60-day thing. Anamika Mitchell, her question is a little interesting. She wants to know, will she be allowed to travel to US on a B2 visa? Even during the 60-day period, I'm assuming.
Look, currently there are no flights, operating from India to the US. Once they open up, and if you have a B1, B2 visa, if you're going to visit family, I don't see a problem. They can use the B1, B2. There was a news on the B1, B2, as well, but I don't see an issue on people with valid visas to go for, meeting family. They can use it.
Right. B1, B2 is not an immigration visa. The whole Yeah, the whole Trump executive order is applicable only for immigrant visas, and that too there are lots of exceptions.
Correct.
So it's not going to impact any other kind of visa, B1, B2, F1, F2. It's not going to impact any of those. So Shreya, your question is: will scholarships continue to be given, or will it reduce given the economic impact? It will. I think what you are trying to ask is that will the university stop giving scholarships or reduce the amount of scholarships? See, the answer is that we don't think so. We have had, we have seen recessions, US go through recessions in the past. So the university giving out scholarships, it's like, universities use scholarships to get the best talent. For them, that's an investment into the future. So we don't think that universities will drastically cut down on scholarships. Right? I hope that answers your question. Right. So somebody wants to know,
Right.
Chitranti, twice her visitor visa has been rejected. Will there be any impact if she applies for an F1 visa for January 2021?
Okay, so so the question is that when she applied as a tourist, she applied to go to the US.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, F1 visa. She wants to go in January 2021. Her visitor visa had been rejected twice.
Yeah, but I see she had applied for a UK visa, which has been rejected twice.
Right.
Once she
So anyway, either situation, what is your answer? In case
so UK visa rejection will not have impact on on a student visa.
How about US? If the US tourist visa was rejected twice, then?
So Arjuna, there are a lot of combination and permutation. So I would like to know if they did apply for a tourist visa to the US. So did they mention they have a relative there? Who is the relative? What is the relative visa status? Are they going to a university which is in the same state where their relative lives? So there are a lot of combinations to it. So it is not a straight answer yes and no. But usually if a person applied as a tourist, a plain tourist, and got a refusal, it will not adversely affect the student visa application at all.
Okay. All right.
Right, Arjuna.
Right, so we will take questions, so Shanti's question is, if too many students defer their post-grad university enrollment, do you think the proportion of new admission intake for 2021 will be reduced? And yes, that is true. If a lot of students defer, then the universities may take fewer students for fall 2021. But I don't think a lot of students will defer, because deferring means your scholarships will get cancelled, right? So I don't think a lot of people will defer. In fact, there are people waiting to start their program. So I don't foresee a situation where so many people will defer that it would impact the university's intake for the next year. Okay, so somebody wants to know, what is the average visa acceptance rate for a student visa to the US?
Okay, so this is Galaxy. So okay, Now the acceptance rate depends on a lot of factors. It cannot be a simple 50-50 or a 65. Let's say on a given day, the students are good. They have going to a very good college. Their finances are also in place. They've shown the right kind of intentions to go and study in the US and return back to the home country. So the issuance on that particular day could be 99% or even 100%, right? It all depends on the students. But if I have to give a ballpark, I would say about issuance is good 80% for students most of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Abhishek's question is, I'm still waiting for my I-20 from the university. After the lockdown, they will send me the I-20 in mail. They are not sending it electronically. So if in case visa consulates are open and I got my I-20 late and early slots are full, and I can't get a slot, So he's kind of imagining the worst possible situation. So is there anything I can do right now, like make my ID, book a slot, etc.? What else can he do? I mean, so the situation is that he hasn't gotten his I-20 from the university yet.
Okay. So Abhishek, I understand your question that you are still waiting for your I-20. However, there is nothing you could actually do because when you start filling your visa application form called the DS-160, you need certain details from your I-20. But like I said, and I'm repeating myself again, that whenever you get an I-20, the embassy will make sure that you get an appointment well in advance before your college start date. So please don't worry. Like I said, there are priority appointments available, expedited appointment, emergency, and there are sometimes slots that open up. So students would definitely get a priority over other applications. So please don't worry on the appointments at all. Arjuna.
Right. Ayush, your question is you are applying, you will be applying for an undergrad degree in fall 2022 and you want to know whether there will be any change in the admission process. The answer is no. The COVID-19 thing is like 2 years down the line. Universities do not change their admission process for a blip. The COVID thing is a blip. It's a natural calamity. It is not expected to continue till fall 2022. And Shreyas wants to know, will this affect the need-based financial aid for the next few years? No, need-based financial aid, the universities who give need-based financial scholarships basically, so they are pretty rich universities. They give need-based financial aid because they want to invest in their students. They want to get the best talent across the globe. So they are not going to change their policy because of that. Just Kirat's question. If the US don't open on time, I will have to start classes online and apply for a visa in my second semester. Can my visa be rejected later? I'm not able to understand your question. First of all, you cannot apply for a visa unless you have gotten admission from the university and the I-20. So I think you want to know whether you applying to the universities is not equivalent to applying for a visa. So, by those of you who joined the meeting late, please don't worry. We are recording this session, and the recording will be emailed to you. So, just here you have an admit and an I-20. Okay. So actually, what I'm gonna do is just Kirat, I will give you the mic access. If you raise your hand, I will give you the mic access, and you can ask your question because I'm not able to understand your question. Can you please raise your hand? Right, just Kirat, you can unmute yourself and ask your question now.
Yeah, sure. So I have an admit from my university. I'm going for my MBA this year. Suppose the Indian and the US economies don't open up on time and the school doesn't allow me a deferral. I'll have to start my studies online this semester. So suppose if I start my studies in September and then the situation becomes clear in November or December and then I'm applying for my visa in January, can my visa be rejected later after I have started my semester and paid half of my fees?
So has your university confirmed to you that they will be starting the fall semester online?
So they have delayed this classes by 1 month and they also don't have further clarity. So they may not be able to delay it more and we'll have to start classes online. So that's a possibility.
So in case that happens, this is a very unique situation. Nobody has ever kind of come across this situation. So our feeling is that the student who has paid the fees and started the classes for one whole semester, the US embassy would give preference to him and and would not reject his F1 visa. Sanjay, do you want to kind of take a guess at this?
Right. So
I mean, there has never been a situation like this.
I agree with you, Arjuna, that Jaskirat, so your question is that if you start online classes and later on if you wish to apply for a visa when the COVID-19 is over, will my visa get rejected, right? So which university are you targeting and what program? Jaskirat, can you hear me? Arjuna?
Can you raise your hand, Zaskirat? Yeah.
Yeah, so I have applied. I have an admit from University of North Carolina for an MBA program.
Okay, okay. So,
UNC
not
Keenan Flagler.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you will not get a visa rejected for Keenan Flagler. It's a top 30 US business school.
exactly, so needless to worry, in fact, you're going to reinforce the entire, intentions that you are a serious student, that you really want to study. So I see that your chances of getting a visa in the second semester are going to be extremely good.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, Jaskirat.
So actually, I think this is easier. If you guys raise your hands, I can give you mic access and you can ask your questions, right? Sanjay, I think that's better, right?
That is also, yeah, it's a good idea, yes. It
Right,
makes,
right.
yeah.
So I am giving mic access to Rushikesh Gadekar.
Okay.
Yes, Rushikesh, you can unmute and speak.
अनम्यूट केलंय तिथे ओ अरे ते अनम्यूट केलंय अनम्यूट
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I
Yes.
can hear you. Yeah.
Can you speak?
Unmute, you can just go ahead.
Please speak. Yeah, I think he got confused.
Correct. So what was his question? Achha, so how important is GRE score to get a visa? I do not have a good score. Okay.
Right, Rushikesh, can you give another try?
माहिती ते बघितलं का तू ती म्हणत होती मी कॅफे मध्ये काम केलं असं
Never mind. So I'm giving my access to Divya Sureban.
Okay.
Okay, hi. I wanted to ask you that for the spring intake 2021, will there be any problems because some might shift their semesters and start with spring? So I haven't applied yet.
Yeah. No, spring, we don't foresee many problems with spring. Not many people apply for spring because there are not many universities who take students in spring. So, fall is where the maximum rush is. So people who are deferring also are kind of deferring for the next fall. So for spring, we don't foresee any problems at all.
Okay, and there might be problems for fall 21?
No, I mean not really actually, because first of all, not many people would defer, because deference is not that deferrals are not that easily available also. Universities might want you to start the program. So it's not that universities will allow everybody to defer.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, Juma.
Yeah. I'm just trying to.
Right.
Okay, so Anjali Pillai.
Hi, my question is it better to join this fall or to defer to fall 21?
That's a very personal decision, Anjali.
No, from a job perspective, I mean.
Your degree would anyway, if you are going, what kind of degree are you going for, Anjali?
Masters in mechanical.
Masters in mechanical. So so that is anyway, if you start this fall, you'll be done 2 years later, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't think that should be a problem. Even if there is a recession, the maximum hit, people who would be taking maximum hit are the people graduating now. And
what about the internship opportunities that actually come in spring 21?
Spring 21, see, if you are starting in fall, so your actually spring 22 or fall, the summer 21 is what most of the internships happen. So that should be fine. Spring 21, there will not be many internship opportunities. You would have finished only one semester. So internship opportunities anyway start after you finish at least 1 year.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Okay, so the next person to go would be Keyur Panchal.
Hello.
Yes, Keyur. Yes. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Yeah, it's right.
Right. Cool. Yes. What's your question?
Okay, so I have a question regarding the US visa main purpose because, like, considering the global pandemic right now, so are the US embassy going to be the strict like always? Like it's been like bit lenient since the Obama has been in charge for the country, but is it going to change anything?
Well, look, the visa issuance and rejection
Yeah,
depends on every individual person. You know, there's
correct,
nothing. It is
correct,
nothing called as like, you know, like it is going to be lenient, so everybody gets a visa, or like, you know,
correct,
it's strict. It's nothing like that. You know, I mean, it is a very very individual kind of a presentation when you go in there. You know, so
correct.
there's nothing like that. You know, like I said earlier, on a
Yeah,
given day, let's say there are students, those who are
yeah,
all going to good colleges, they've got good
correct,
finances, they've shown their intentions. There could be an issuance of 99%. You know,
correct. Okay,
right? Yeah.
and
Go ahead.
Yes. We can't hear you. Keyur, we can't hear you. You seem to be on mute.
hello, hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've got a mail from Northeastern, so they've already enrolled my like given me an invitation to start the course online for the SEM1. So, like considering the current situation, like the online classes, and by the time I think for the 4 to 5 months, I'm going to be in India itself, and living like another 4 months. If I get to fly in US for another next 4 months, so will I be able to get the internship in the second year of my course? Like,
Okay.
are there
Okay.
chances, or do they consider only the four months, like me being in the US?
No, no. See, actually, first of all, you and then there's someone just curious. So what you guys should be actually be happy about is that you get to stay in India and your living cost is going to be like zero. If you had
Correct,
like started the process, so actually that's
correct.
actually a
That's a
very,
good
very bright
advantage.
side. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
very massive advantage actually. You'll be saving a lot of money.
correct,
And
correct.
universities, what they're saying is that if you like, it's not that you are choosing to stay, right? They are inviting
Yeah,
you, they are
correct,
asking you. So
correct,
whether it is the validity of your visas or your OPT, everything, nothing changes. Whether when you can start the internship, nothing changes because it is not you who is asking the favor. They
correct.
are asking you to do so, right? So
Exactly.
look
Yeah,
at the positive side. You are going to save like one semester worth of cost of living if you
correct.
start your program now,
Yeah,
online,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But most universities they are actually coming up with statements saying that they are planning to open the campus by September. So let's see.
Okay. And I also had a one clarity in it's not regarding the visa thing, it's regarding the USA. So
Mhm.
like as we compare it to Australia, like student can work on the student visa for until the fourth night, and it's like nothing to be do with any course or anything. So is that possible in US as well?
You can work for 20 hours per week on your student visa. You cannot work part time. So UK, Australia, there, yes, you can work part time. But
Correct.
in the US, you can work 20 hours per week on campus. You cannot like go and work in a company per se, right? So the work in limitations are there in the US.
Okay. So and for the internship opportunities, like how the
That's
things work
fine.
out over there?
So for internships, like so the university sets up all you look for. Internship actually comes under on campus only. In a sense,
Okay.
you are allowed to do an internship. In fact, your internship will be outside your campus. So that is a part of the program. So that is fine. And it's
Okay.
a paid internship, and the pay and the salary varies. Depending on what kind of role you have got the internship for.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And like I'm like looking forward to join a MIS course
Mm-hmm.
from, from Arizona or else Pace University. So like
Arizona LR,
sorry,
University of Arizona.
Tampa,
Arizona State or University of Arizona?
Arizona State University.
Okay, 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 all right. Okay.
So I've already got my admits from few of the colleges. So I wanted to know that like considering current scenario, like is the MIS the right thing to choose to join in USA?
See, tech is the right thing to join. Everything is becoming tech. I mean, everything is becoming online. Tech is the right field to be in currently. Tech, anything related with life sciences, all of those are the up and coming fields. Actually, doing massively well.
Yeah.
So, Keyur, I will have to stop having this conversation with you right now because there are other people who might be feeling
Sure.
left out. So, thanks for sharing with us.
Sure, no problem. Thank you.
Thanks. So, I'm giving mic access to Ramandeep. Ramandeep, you have any queries?
Yes, ma'am, I have a question. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm planning to enroll myself in fall 2021. So
Okay.
considering the pandemic, I guess most of the students will apply in fall 2021. So will it become competitive to get admission?
No, I don't think why people will apply for fall 2021. People who were targeting fall 2020, they had already applied and got admissions or whatever, right? So I don't see why more people will apply for fall 2021.
Okay.
The fall 2020 application deadlines were in 2019. Whoever wanted to go for fall 2020, they had already applied. That process is done. It's not that people waited and did not apply,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, I get it. Yeah.
All right, okay. Bhumi, you have been waiting for a long time, so I've given mic access to you.
No problem, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Ma'am and sir, I have a F2 visa with me right now. I was scheduled to fly to US last week of April, but due to this situation, I'm not able to. My question is, if I have to convert my F2 visa to F1 later on, will there be a issue with that? Does the embassy, I don't know how the embassy might just respond to this. Could you please help me understand that?
Right. So you currently have an F2 visa.
Yes,
and,
sir.
So when you apply for an F1, they would be considering you as an individual, So,
Okay.
so your intentions of going and studying over there should be really, really clear. It should not be that, where your husband is, that you want to go and study there because it is convenient. So you got to look for a program which suits your needs the best.
Sure, noted. And my husband is currently under procedure to get his O1 visa.
Okay.
So then does that change my situation later to obtain F1?
Big time. Because O1, like in H1, L1, K1 and O1, these categories are very different because they do not fall under the category called F214D. You don't have to show your intentions of coming back. So if your husband is going to be on O1, so which automatically makes you an O2,
Yeah.
a dependent, right?
Yeah.
So from an O visa to an F1 would be a easier process compared to, like a student applying for a fresh. So your chances of getting an F1 would be really good. But at the same time, I stress on the program that you want to go in and, attend and the university. They both should be in sync with your career goals.
Sure, noted. So you don't see that as a problem, right? That's what I can sum up in a nutshell. I'll be treated like an individual only.
You will be treated as an individual. And if you have your husband on O1, so that gives you an advantage. But I repeat myself that, please focus on the program and the university once again, which should be in sync with your career goals and aspirations.
Yes, noted. Thank you very much.
Right.
Sure.
So guys, we are taking as many questions as possible, but it will probably not be possible for us to address all of your questions. So couple of things. If we have already spoken to you once, please don't raise your hands again. I would like to give the opportunity to some other people to speak up. And if you want us to speak to you, after this session also, please leave your number in the chat window to the panelists. So we will be in touch. We'll get in touch with you and we'll address your queries, right? So in case we're not able to address your queries directly today, do leave your numbers. We will, reach out to you and help you out. So next person I'm giving mic access to is Dikshant.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hi Dikshant.
Yeah, so I got a question that I'm going to get a green card, but if that would be late before my admission, so should I apply for student visa? As because rest of my family is already staying in USA.
Okay, so you are going under the F2B category?
No, like I've got a sibling file for my brother
Oh, so
from
it's
my
an
uncle.
F4.
Yeah.
It's an F4. And when was the petition filed?
Around 2005.
2000. And do you know the current visa bulletin date which is in process?
I think so. It's like in the last stage. It's in paperwork stage, right? The last paperwork thing.
All right. So if your date is current, then there is no point applying for a student visa. You should get the admissions done, but then get your green card and go. Because when you apply for any non-immigrant visa, your immigration file shows up. And for a non-immigrant,
Yeah.
and for a non-immigrant, you have to show your intentions of coming back to your home country. But if you have an immigrant visa pending, which is already current, so then your intentions aren't to come back. Your intentions are to stay in the US, right?
Yeah.
So your student visa or non-immigrant visa would be extremely difficult to qualify for. So I would say that, do your processes here, as in like, take your GRE or the GMAT, apply to colleges and wait for your green card. Go on a green card then. It is much better for you then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. So the next person I'm giving access to is Guneet.
Yeah.
Yes, Guneet, if you're there, you can unmute yourself and ask your query.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, hi, Guneet.
I'm very well informed about the effects of executive order on immigration visa, but I would like to know how much time does it take for immigration process to get completed?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question? I'm really sorry, I missed out on it.
I think there's a slight echo, Guneet. Can you speak a little louder?
Yeah, sure. Ma'am, how much time does it take for immigration process completed?
Immigration process for which category?
Green card holder.
No, so green card also has different categories. You're talking about a spouse visa?
No, sir. We are going on PR with family.
No, you're going as a PR, but who has filed immigration for you? To Canada or to the US?
US.
US. So there has to be someone who has filed immigration for you?
Yes, sir. My uncle, my paternal uncle has filed.
Your paternal uncle. Okay. Yep. So that is the F4 visa category.
Yes, sir.
All right. So it depends on when was the petition filed. The date.
2000, around 2000.
Around 2000?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the date should be current by now. If you log on to the visa bulletin of the state government and scroll down, you will see the F4 visa category for India. And then you could figure it out, how much time will it take more. But it should be current. If it was done in 2000, then it should be current. You should be getting paperwork from the US Embassy.
Yes, sir, we are getting. I just wanted to know the immigration process as due to COVID, everything is delaying. So just a bit worried about my career.
No. We are very hopeful that, this pandemic should get over, sooner. But this delay would not actually impact the entire process. As soon as this gets over and if your date is current, they would send you the paperwork and it will start the process. So this immigration, so you are concerned about the executive order of the
Yes.
the Trump administration.
Yes, sir.
That's only for 60 days. Don't worry, it will get over. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Arjuna?
Yep. Purushottam Kaspa. I hope I will pronounce your name correctly. You can unmute yourself and ask your query. Purushottam? No? Okay. So maybe Adrija Saxena. You can unmute yourself, Adrija.
Thank you. I've been waiting for long.
Yes, you did. You were waiting for long. Thanks for your patience.
It's okay. All right. So my question is, my H1B was denied once. So I was there in US and it was denied that time. So will it impact my F1 or my study visa?
Okay. So what I could understand was you were in the US. What visa were you in the US on?
H1B.
Okay. So you were there on H1 and the company filed for another H1 or an H1 extension, which got refused.
Yes, extension was refused.
Right. So your visa was not refused.
No. Extension was refused.
Okay. And then you came back within the time. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it is not going to affect your student visa.
All right.
For that purposes. Yes.
Okay. That's
But
the
then,
relief. Yeah.
Right. But like, again, I keep, emphasizing enough on the university, the course content, which should be absolutely in sync with your career goal. That is really important to qualify for a US student visa.
Okay, so yeah, maybe you can, I think you have been covering this in detail, but can you quickly just give us the pointers, like, what should be there to increase your chances to get through the student visa process?
Okay. So the first is like, like I said, when you're, I keep saying this, there are two kinds of students applying for visas. One, those who want to go to the US, and one, those who want to go and study in the US. So there's a huge difference between these two. The student, those who want to go and study in the US, would have taken the GRE or the GMAT or the SAT. They would apply to various colleges across the US. And then once the admission comes based on the course content and curriculum, right? And then they would choose a particular college which would really help them achieve their career goals, right? And then you have to show your intentions of going and studying over there. And most importantly, coming back to your home country after completion of your studies. So in your case, you got to first elaborate on what were you doing on H1, how long you've been in India, and why you want to go and study in the US, and what are your career goals in India. So if you sync it together, then your chances of getting a visa would be really, really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Arjuna.
Right, so Aditya, I hope it was worth the wait.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks. So Pallav Bhatia, I have been seeing you for a while now. So again, sorry to keep you waiting. You can unmute yourself and speak up.
Hello. Good evening, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, sir. I just wanted to ask that will the universities will be open to admissions during this time of crisis for the December and January admission this year?
Arjuna.
They're already open actually. They are taking applications, the deadlines and all for the ones who are starting for, spring 21, so they're already up.
Ma'am, actually, I have not yet given my exams, but I have been preparing since last 3 months and I want to give my exams, but the exams have been rescheduled or have been delayed. So what are the chances that I will get admission this year, or do I have to stay for next year?
So are you done with your college exams?
Yes, ma'am. I have finished my college exam last year in June. But I was preparing for GRE and IELTS, both the exams, but I have not given the exams. I had planned exams to give.
See, Pallav, I'm glad that we gave the mic access to you, because there may be a lot of students today right now who are in the same boat as you. Like, people who have been preparing for the exams, GRE, TOEFL, and not being able to take, etc., etc. So there's some good news. There are some universities, who have extended the deadline for the fall 2020 intake. That means the session starting August, September, they have extended the deadline, and they are also saying that we will waive off the GRE requirement for people with good profiles. So that is a massive advantage. So if you need any information about, right now I don't know what program you want to, and I don't want to ask you. Right. I don't, in a public forum, I don't want to ask you about what your marks are, etc., etc. So please leave your number. So our admissions team, I'll ask my admissions team to get in touch with you. So there are lots of colleges who have kind of delayed their application deadline, and who are saying that they are going to waive off the exam requirement. So any of you, not just you, Pallav, if anybody else needs that information, please leave your number. Specifically mention that you want non-GRE options or non-GMAT options. Specifically mention that as well. My admissions team will get in, information.
Okay, ma'am.
So Pallav, I hope that helps.
Yes, ma'am. I've already shared.
Okay, you have. All right.
Please,
that's okay.
Please get in touch. Okay. Thank you so much.
We will. Thank you. Thanks, Pallav. Devin Raulani. I hope I have pronounced it correctly.
Yeah, that's correct. Hey, Ms. Aryama and Mr. Sanjay. I hope you guys can hear me.
Yes.
Yep, we can.
Okay, so I actually have 4 questions which may be interrelated. I'm a dentist in India and have been accepted for the fall SEM 2020 at a postgraduate residency program. It's scheduled to start on the July 1st. And they have no intentions to delay the start. With respect to dates, it's pretty cut to cut. So the embassies may or may not open in time to schedule a visa interview. So what do you recommend me to do in such a situation right now?
So which university is this?
This is Rutgers University, New Jersey.
Okay, right. So and they are saying that they are going to start the semester on July 1st.
Yeah, precisely.
Right. So have you gotten a call with their admissions office letting them know that there are no flight operating, there are no visa dates? Have you gotten a call, not necessarily email?
No. So I got in touch with them through the email with the international office as well as the admissions committee. And for now, they have no intention to delay the program. If there is anything, they let us know. That's all they say. So this is
okay.
For a couple of days now.
Right. So I guess actually, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go
yes,
ahead,
Sanjay, please. No, Sanjay, you go.
I think you've got only 2 options.
Okay.
Right. One is if they have online classes, you go ahead and join them, and once things get normalized, then you apply for your visa and join them. Or I guess they don't have they don't defer admissions. I guess you have to reapply for your admissions next year then.
That's correct. Yeah. Because it's the problem is it's a clinical based program. Being a dentist, you have to attend the patients in a clinical based scenario. So online classes is not an option for now. And the deferment also, I've spoken to them. They don't have a rule for that. You have to reapply next year.
Correct. So only one option, right?
Yeah.
Or 2 options, right? If it gets normalized, we apply for a visa. If not, then you reapply for your admission and then the visa, right?
Yeah, precisely. So,
so one part, yes, it is going to be cut to cut in case if they do open up the embassy, right? Like I said, and I'm going to repeat myself again that, once the embassy opens up, they would give preference and priority to students, those who have to have deadlines to meet. So don't worry on that.
Okay, let's hope for that. And
fingers crossed.
Yeah. Okay. My next question is, so I ordered for my I-20 and it was sent by mail, but due to the lockdown implementation in India, I got stuck. So I got in touch with my university and they sent one via email, but they were unsure if an electronically signed I-20 will be accepted by the consular officer at the embassy. So do you know anything about that?
Electronically signed applications or the I-20s will not be accepted. They need an original for that. Yeah.
Okay, so I would need a physical copy once the lockdown opens.
Yes. Yes, you would.
Okay, and third, will this pandemic situation and the economic crisis which is currently going on in the United States affect the American banks giving out student loans in any way? Do you know anything about that?
Oh, no, actually, it's not. I mean, they are also looking for more customers and more interest, and also that is not going to. The banks are not going to cut down on the loans. I mean, that's how they earn their money. So right. That part we are pretty sure of. We had a couple of words with some financial institutions, and they have no plans of not giving loans.
Okay.
For them, that's their revenue stream. So they have to.
Right. Okay, my last question is, so an US embassy typically grants visas considering that you have sufficient funds and your intention to leave the United States at the termination of the program.
Right.
With a loan of around, say, $200 to $250,000 on my head, I will of course look to find a job to pay off the loan and not immediately come back at the completion of the program. So how do you recommend I should be answering at the embassy in order to be so securely, successfully get a student loan rather?
Once again, this is it's going to be very, very individual, and there are a lot of combinations and permutation which goes into visa counseling. So we'd like to, when we have a one-on-one session, we try to understand your situation in India,
right?
Because every individual is different, right? Maybe your family is also a dentist. Maybe you've got a clinic worth 5 chairs or 6 chairs. It all depends, And then we need to figure out what kind of specialization that you're looking at. I understand that, the DDS and the BDS is just a repetition, right. But then we need to find out that, okay, I want to be a specialized orthodontist or a smile specialist, then and talk about what's happening in India and how do you connect with all that, right?
Okay.
So by and large, the visa officers, they understand, and that is the reason there is an OPT also involved in it, right? But they're looking at overall intentions. Why would a student come back, and why is he going and studying in the US and spending $200,000, to repeat his course again?
Right.
Right. But like I said, maybe you have your own clinic. Maybe you could say that, I want to open up a chain of, smile clinics across India. Right. I want to hire more specialists. I want to bring in more special qualities. I want to bring in more product.
And, Sanjay, in this case, I think, do you think it would be helpful if Devan, took loan against physical properties in India? That would help connect the connection of the routes, etc.
Oh, Arjuna, yeah, that would be one point. But like I said, if he has a family of doctors or dentists, or if he has own intentions plus the loan in India, there are a lot of combinations goes into it. It's not
So Devendra, let's connect, offline, because it's very, very, very customized, specific kind of thing,
Correct.
I mean, for example, if you guys have a family clinic, let's say, that's a great case that yes, he will come back kind of thing, so it varies. There's no standard kind of, template answer.
Got it. Yeah.
Per se, right?
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much.
All right. Yep. Thanks. So there's somebody called Meet C. I don't know what your name is, but okay, I'm giving the mic access to you. You can unmute yourself and speak if you want to.
Hi. So can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
So my question is, I have got admits from various colleges. I'm applying for a professional program which does not require a GRE score to be given to the colleges. So will that affect my visa acceptance in any manner?
What course? Which course is this?
It's a master's course in construction management.
Okay. So it is not necessary that, everybody has to give a GRE. If you have a GRE, it really, really helps. But, there are certain programs like yours, which does not require a GRE program. But then again, we have to see the overall situation. What have you studied here in India? What are you currently doing?
I have an architecture undergraduate degree and a 2 years work experience as well.
Also, that makes a wonderful case. You don't have to have a GRE score for that. So like I said to our friend dentist, that every individual story has to be built in to make a perfect answer for the visa. So when we do a one-on-one counseling, we'll understand that yes, you're an architect and you've done 2 years and you're going for a specialized program. Again, what is that program? How is it in sync with what's happening in India? So, all those things would matter. Just GRE would be a part of it then. And if you haven't given, that's okay. If the university has accepted you, that's okay.
Because I was about to give my GREs right now, but due to this lockdown, everything is in a crunch. And the problem is that when I apply for my visas, it could be a situation when I have to put in my applications but not be able to give my GRE. So that's the main reason.
Have you taken TOEFL?
I was not able to take TOEFL as well because IELTS was scheduled on the 19th of March, and on that day itself, the lockdown was declared in March.
So my recommendation would be that the lockdown would open in the next couple of weeks. So I would strongly recommend that you at least take the TOEFL.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that then.
Yeah, and get a good score, 100 pluses. At least if you have one of these standardized scores, then it increases your chance a lot.
Great, understood. Thank you so much.
Right. All right. Yep. So we are going to take a couple of more questions, and then we'll be done. So if we haven't been able to address your specific questions, please leave your number in the chat window. We will reach out to you. And with that, Sai, I'm giving the mic access to Sai.
Okay.
Sai, you can unmute yourself and speak if you want to.
Hello.
Are you there? Yep.
Hello, ma'am. My question is that many of the universities are going to, switch their fall semester online. Okay, so if I enroll myself for online session, then for fall 2020, then whether US government is going to allow me for summer internship, because they have some kind of rule, right? You have to be on the campus for 12 months.
For 2 semesters.
Yes, for 2 semesters. But I'm doing my first semester online by living in India.
Correct.
So are they going to, they have, are they going to consider my 6 months or not?
See, they will consider your 6 months, because as I think I addressed that with somebody else also, that this is not your choice.
Okay.
I mean, you didn't say that I want to stay. I don't want to come to the US for the first semester. You didn't say that, right?
Yes.
So, so I would, have you started your program online already?
No, ma'am. In August.
In August, right. And also, I would recommend that you speak to the international admissions office there, and you double check also. But from a couple of universities who have mentioned this, so we reached out to them, and they are saying that that because this is not something that students requested, we have asked them to do that. So so that would not impact, right? But still, I don't know what your program is or etc. etc. So I would recommend that you write to the international admissions office at that specific university and see if they will help you with the paperwork. The university has to be invested in you. The university has to do the necessary paperwork and make it happen.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Right. All right. So we are taking the last question of the day. Mudita. Mudita, if you are there, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so I have a unique question. Actually, I am a person with disability, and I would like to apply in the US for the fall of 2021. And my father is my primary caregiver, and I mean, he would accompany me there and would stay with me because I require him with me 24/7. So I would like to ask, what kind of visa does my father require so that he has an uninterrupted stay there?
Arjuna, can I answer that?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Hi, this is Sanjay Kaushik. So you will be going on an F2 visa, F1 visa, which is the student visa. But unfortunately for parents, there is no dependent visa as such. He can at the most apply for a visitor's visa and stay with you for only 6 months. And then he has to leave the country and then re-enter.
For how long? For how long?
The maximum he can stay there for 6 months. The maximum he can stay in the US is 6 months on a visitor's visa.
No. So if he leaves the country, how long will it take him to come back? I mean, can he come? What is the duration of him not leaving? Basically.
Okay, so let's say that he stays there for 6 months and he comes to India. So your question is, how long does he have to stay in India to get back to the US?
Yeah, how long does he have to stay in India so that he can come back to the US for another 6 months?
There is no stipulated time frame as such. He can go back within a week or even less than a week. But at the port of entry, he has to prove why is he back again.
Okay. I would like to actually. My father is also.
Has to take the course.
Yeah, my father is here. He would like to ask the question.
Hello. I would just like to add a point to this. Can I do a thing like this? For a weekend over to Canada and come back?
Well, you can do that, but then the immigration officer may have a lot of questions. So you have to carry all the possible documentation to prove that why is your stay in the US necessary for that duration. And I would also suggest that when going in for the visa interview, over there you can explain the situation to the visa officer so that he could make a special note on your visa application.
Okay, me being the primary caregiver and have to stay with my daughter because she needs care.
Correct. You could make a request to them saying that my daughter is going and studying over there, right? And because of her situation, I have to be with her for her health, right?
no, there was another. Just take a minute more. There was another thing that somebody told us that the Saudi Arabian girls are not allowed to travel in the US alone. So one of the parents accompany them, and their visas are extended there itself in the US through the university. The university gives them a. Is there such a provision in the law or something? We were
No,
told.
there is no provision as such, sir. There is no provision. Even while in the US, you can ask for an extension. You don't have to leave the country.
Okay.
Okay. So let's say that you enter the US and you get a first time stay of 6 months. After 4th month or the 5th month, you can request the immigration to extend your stay, giving the medical situation of the daughter or, you know, the current situation. So it is up to the immigration to accept that or not accept that.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Okay. I get it.
But under most circumstances, I think, you know, they would extend, but you know, there is no rule. They were not bound, or they are not. It's not mandatory for them to extend.
Correct. There's no rule as such.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Right. All right. So, so guys, that's all. So this session, we have recorded this session, and we would be emailing the recording to you at the probably, hopefully by Monday. So. Right, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Right. Something weird happened. So, so I think that this is all for now. I hope you guys found the session useful. I'm sorry we could not address all of your queries. We tried to do as much as we could. But if you have left your numbers, I have seen a lot of you leaving your numbers. So in case you have done that, then we will reach out to you. In